The next question is being received from Chicago, USA. And this question I have been receiving like several times from several people, so I like to share this with you. Many people ask this question: if Shaitan is locked, why Muslims still sin in Ramadan and while fasting? So the answer to this one is we have to understand something. By the will of Allah, the Shaitan are being locked in the month of Ramadan. But we have to understand something. There is something which is more dangerous to us. That is our own nafs. If you read in Surah Yusuf, I believe it's verse number 53, it says, وَمَا أَبَرَّ النَّفْسِ إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَمَارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Your nafs always call you to do something evil thing. As a Muslim, we all know that when we are born, we have our partner who is a Shaitan, who is with us since we are born, and he's going to stay with us till we die, and he's not going to leave us alone. So basically he communicates with our mind like 24 hours a day, like putting an evil on our mind, like whispering in our hearts towards something like assumption, bad things, evil things, calling towards something like wrong things. So basically there's something like worse than the Shaitan. That is our own nafs. That is always call us something which is against Allah. The nafs will not ask you, okay, you need to go do something good for Allah. Okay, make an extra nafils for Allah. The nafs will not ask you. So basically we have to force ourselves. We have to surrender ourselves according to the commandments of Allah. So the question was that if Shaitan is locked, why Muslims sin? So what happens, like if some Muslims are weak in Iman and some Muslims are not strong. So basically they are the victims of our nafs Shaitan. So when our nafs and Shaitan as the Muslim, okay, you do this and you do that, like let's watch movie, like for example, we are in a Ramadan. So since Shaitan is locked, but we are still fasting. So but inside we have a Shaitan who forces us, and he wants us to destroy our fasting. And this is a really important point, like many Muslims does not understand. Like let's say when we do our exam, like we get like 100, we get a marks from out of 100. So similarly when we do our perfect fasting, Allah give us 100 out of 100. So for an example, let's say our nafs ask us, okay, let's do something, watch our TV. Let's say you're not watching something wrong, but I mean like just a regular TV. It's nothing wrong in there, it's just a regular TV. Let's say some Islamic program or anything during your fasting. So basically this is a really trick of a Shaitan. He wants you to remove from your ibadah that you're supposed to be spending in your adhkar. You're supposed to be spending a time in reciting a Quran, but rather our Shaitan nafs, he forces us that we do something so out of 100, so our marks keep going down. So this is the one example, watching a TV. Another example is like Shaitan make us to talk on useless things, like say some evil person, like a backbiting, talking about a politics, talking about some leader, talking about scholars, talking about some ministers, or it could be anything. Just basically the point is it could be anything, but a baseless has no benefit in our fasting. Basically wasting of time, wasting of energy, wasting of our talking, wasting of our energy on a useless talks. And let me tell you something, this is something very important. Shaitan whispers in our heart that okay, you are not doing something wrong, you are just like talking about something which is like very important, something like a social issue, you really need to talk about that, and you really need to discuss about that. Now understand something. In the Ramadan, we are supposed to spend our time in our car, and we're supposed to be spending in time in reciting a Quran and extra nawafils, or do something good like making a lot of sadaqahs, do something good. And there's another examples. For an examples, this is something like a very extremely important point. Many sisters in our regular days, they do not go into the kitchen much, but when the Ramadan comes, they start going into the kitchen and start preparing for an iftar, wasting their whole day in the kitchen. When they are not doing that in the regular days, but when the fasting days comes, and they are wasting their time. So this is from the Shaitan. We have to understand, Ramadan means we have to build a taqwa, and the taqwa is when we read the Surah Baqarah and verse number 2. Allah says, Alif Lam Mim Zalikal Kitabu La Raiba Fihi Hudal Lil Muttaqin. As Allah says in Surah Baqarah, this is the book of guidance for those who have a taqwa. The taqwa means you have to have a self and a very strong control from the things that Allah forbade you to do. So we have to be careful from the things that we do. So there are many examples, especially our sister are the more victims of Shaitan than our brothers, because the sisters spend the time on iftar parties, and then the sisters calling another sister, okay, what are you preparing? Then they call another sister, okay, what are you preparing? Oh, I made this and I made this, and this wasn't good, and useless talk. This has no effect of Ramadan. So basically, out of 100, so when we finish our 24 hours fasting, our 24 hours a day, and we spend our few hours for the fasting, what happens that from out of 100, we come down to, let's say, after the whole day of Ramadan and fasting and everything, and this becomes like we're left with only 20 marks and 25 marks. So basically we were supposed to do what was being ordained by Allah, but we are not doing something, and we are doing something which we like. We have to understand, in the hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, if you cannot control yourself and you're doing something wrong, and then Allah does not need your fasting. So basically what happens, like somebody say, I did all 30 days fasting, and I did this and I did that, and all their fastings are wasted, because during from the suhoor time until iftar time, the most of the time we have to spend in adhkar, and we have to spend our time in reciting a Quran, and doing something good and that pleases Allah, and that makes our 100. We don't get 100, but at least we can get a 90 or 95 marks out of 100. So but basically we're doing something like a social things and unbenefiting things that is really destroying our fast, and we coming down, and we left with finally when we end of the day, we don't leave left with anything, because basically what we are supposed to do, we are not doing it. So we are following our nafs. So this is what the definition means, like when the Shaitan is locked, but our nafs is open. When we read the Surah Baqarah, verse number 208, Allah says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu udkhulu fis-silmi kafatin wa la tattabi'u khutwati shaitan innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. Allah says, put yourself into the Islam, in the folder of Islam completely, and do not leave anything that you being the victim of Shaitan, and he's going to use you to do something which is not right. So basically the Allah says in the Quran, you have to stick with the Quran and with the fold of Islam, and do not leave yourself loose that Shaitan can use you for his benefit. So rather we have to surrender our wishes, and we have to give up our desires, and we have to submit ourselves to Allah. And this is what this question means. When Allah has chained all shaitans, then why is still Muslims doing sin? So this is the way. And there's another example. There are many TV Islamic programs being going on in countries like Pakistan, India, or maybe some other countries. I'm not familiar with that, but I'm familiar with these countries like India and Pakistan. They made these programs to help the audience and the viewers to learn Islam. But this is not learning Islam, but basically they are keeping away the Muslims from their ibadah, because what happens, like, they are supposed to be doing the dhikr and they are supposed to be doing the ibadah, but rather they are wasting their time and waiting for the time that, like, when this program is going to come on the TV, and they're going to sit in the front of the TV and start watching the program. And what happens, in 1 hour, 2 hours, you wasted all your time that you're supposed to be doing adhkar, and that you're supposed to be reciting a Quran and doing something very good, which is benefiting and keep your fasting perfect. These programs are not Islamic, but rather in the name of Islam they are running their businesses and they're making money, unless the program is about only a question and answer. They do not have an entertainment, and they do not have any host, and they do not have anything. And mashallah, we have a lot of scholars. They're doing programs in Ramadan. They're getting live phone calls from them. But this is the program that we need to pay attention to, that help us to understand how can we make our more better ourselves in Ramadan. And then there's another example in India and Pakistan, and I'm not familiar with other countries. Our Muslim sisters, they usually so much addicted a TV drama serials. So what happens, like, even in the Ramadan, they are being addicted and they are wasting time watching the dramas. But we have to understand, in the Ramadan, we have to cut ourselves from everything, and we have to totally give this Ramadan just for the sake of Allah, because this month totally belongs to Allah. This is like Allah gave us a chance to how can we make ourselves better for Ramadan, that we are doing in 30 days, that help us to make us strong, that we can live in another 11 months. That this is our we are living in a hostel, and we are learning something to make ourselves, like, we are in like a military training, and then we are making ourselves to be strong enough to be a very good army person. So similarly, Allah has given us this opportunity that we have to make ourselves to be a good Muslim, and we have to have a taqwa. So this is the best month that you have, so take an opportunity and do not waste it by on any useless things. Your time spend in your other cars, spend in reciting a Quran, and do some extra nawafils, and also do at-tahajjud. And inshallah, may Allah bless all our Muslim brothers and sisters.